Hey everyone and welcome to Storytime. My name is Jake and today we are going to be looking at the subreddit r/maliciouscompliance, where people conform to the letter but not the spirit of a request. If you're new around here, please do hit subscribe down below so that you never miss out on another video. But for now, let's sit back, relax, and enjoy some malicious compliance. Car manufacturer policy change compliance. Man, that had to hurt. I work IT for a large car dealer. That said, there are lots of third-party vendors I work with. Lots of moving parts to that business, but in this story, we're going to focus on the service side of things. The mechanics at this dealer all have an inspection license, along with a cable and software to connect their laptop to the cars to read the computer of said car. This provides them with error codes and things that may be wrong with the car. This software is made by the car manufacturer. Normally, this is a good thing. Massive companies like that normally have the money to invest in a good final product, so you don't really see any software issues, just hardware issues like bad cables and such. I say normally, but with this brand that is not the case. The software works, but isn't the least bit user-friendly, wasting a lot of time. How would these guys know what to do with this info, or even what half the computer jargon even means? So, I would call tech support on their behalf, because I knew they would struggle and waste half of the day trying to sort it out. It's an IT issue. After all, that's what I'm here for. At the time of this story, I had only been supporting this car manufacturer for a few months. When I called, I had already identified the issue and what needed to be addressed. I received a ton of resistance from this manufacturer technical support team. They were used to working with people that can barely turn the thing on and would mindlessly follow what they said. Being told the issue, I guess didn't sit well with them for whatever reason. I mentioned on every call that if I had access to these things, I could knock out most of these common issues, and I'd rarely have to call, saving both time and money. That is, after all, my job. I'm saving the manufacturer both time and money since I have the knowledge and can speak the language while others cannot. This went on a while, enough that I provided data on how much time I was spent troubleshooting software issues that the engineering team should take a look at. My only goal here was to work with the manufacturer to provide the best and most cost-effective support together. A response shortly after came via my phone call for support for yet another software issue. The manufacturer made a new policy. That policy is, you must have an inspection license to receive tech support. So I, an IT professional, could no longer perform technical support for a technical problem. Now, a mechanic would have to call themselves. I knew what came next. I had to maliciously comply, but it was not rewarding. I knew the fallout and just how much time and money would be wasted on this policy, just at the dealer level. I have no idea if they made this a state or worldwide thing or not. At this point, I only knew 3 things. Number 1, support is going to slow down because the mechanics are going to be on the phone all day trying to sort these things out. Number 2, the time it would take to receive support would grow extremely long. And number 3, I no longer have or can do anything. Fast forwarding, 1 year to that policy change. Any and all calls related to that system, I would provide them the direct contact information to the support team at the manufacturer. Would repeat policy after being begged by several mechanics, service managers and general managers, etc. New employee? Sorry, call them directly. I can't install that software. Cable bad? Could be, please call them directly. Many mechanics are on book time. Book time is a prorated cost. Example, if you need brakes, a mechanic is paid 0.5 hours for the front, 0.5 hours for the back, total 1 hour time to put those on. If it took less or more time, it didn't matter. That's the flat rate he will receive for that job. That's book time. Every mechanic is there to make money. If you want them on the phone half the day for that task, that would take me 5 minutes to sort, those mechanics expect to get paid for that half day. The manufacturer was forced to do just that. Why? No one would call. They aren't paid to wait on hold an hour or so, then have someone that isn't even there to try and figure out the issue, while a line of customers waiting for repairs. What customer is going to wait around all day? The customer never go to brand X for service, they are slow, etc. So now, the manufacturer had to cave and pay the mechanics book time to troubleshoot the software with them. Again, at least half the day. If you spotted the loophole in this already, I'll admit, you picked up on it faster than I did. Amazing how many people would abuse a system like that and claim they have an issue so they can be paid to sit down and relax, to hold to music, or make more money if they are having a slow day. I bear witness to it myself. Was that the last car? Yes. Well, what do you know? I'm having an issue with my software. I'll be busy the next 2 hours. Huh, Roger. The mechanic was letting the assistant service manager know to direct the next customer to another mechanic on that team, as he would be busy getting paid to sit there. Wait time used to be a minute, perhaps 2 before this change, by the way. Now, hour or so. Because of this new policy, they had to pay through the nose for the amount of time it takes. Something I could have knocked on in about 10 minutes. Fast forward now 1.5 years after the policy change. A new policy change went into the effect. Only the master mechanic may call on behalf of the other mechanics for technical support. In addition, a lot of revisions and updates to the software, of which many of the things I mentioned 1.5 years ago were addressed. Fast forward 2 years after the policy change. Software rarely has issues. It's been 2 wonderful years since I last touched it. It's been at least a year since someone asked me for help on it because they all know better than to ask at this point. Having one less third-party system to deal with has been wonderful and allowed me to focus on the things I have control of. Looking at the entire thing logically, many different countries and things have different rules. This part of the US has a lot of requirements, and perhaps this specific car manufacturer didn't want to have to deal with it at the time, and decided to make this problem go away by getting rid of anyone that could identify the issue. In the end, they paid through the nose for it, and then some. I'd really like to know the dollar amount over the last 2 years that was invested in that discussion to make it go away, because they couldn't be bothered by US requirements. At least they got there at the end, minus quite a few fleets of yachts. If I'm honest, I really expected the guy to go get an inspection license, but that works as well, oh my. Some bosses flagged themselves as unfit. Several years ago, I was looking for a job, and a friend suggested to me to work for the same company she worked for. It was one of those flagging companies you see holding up traffic for construction sites. She's telling me how great the job is, how awesome the co-workers are, and how great the boss is. Sounded like an okay job, really. At this point, I have no other leads for jobs. I've applied to a bunch of places already, but haven't heard back from them, and it's too soon to call them yet. So, I decided to take her up on the offer. The pay is not bad. I don't recall exactly what it was, something like 16 an hour. I go through the hiring course and get through easily. A few days later, the boss then calls me and tells me that I work for her, and that I'm supposed to do as she says. Furthermore, that only she has the authority to tell me when I work, with the lovely aspect that she will call me before 8 PM to let me know if I'm working the next day, and that if I don't hear from her, then I'm not working. I say, fair enough. She then tells me she wants to meet, so I can be given the requisite gear. Normally, this wouldn't be a problem, but at this point, I've only just gotten my license, and according to my local laws, I can't drive between midnight and 5 AM yet. The boss, of course, wants me to meet her the next day at a job site at 4 AM. While there is a special permit new drivers can get, It takes a few days to actually get, fill out, be processed, and accepted. So it wouldn't be possible to have it done for the next day. I told her that I wasn't going to break the law for her, and she got angry, but then eventually relented. Meet at 5:30 then, which was doable for me. I ended up working a shift that day as well. A couple weeks pass and I'm getting no shifts at all. Sitting by the phone a lot waiting for calls that aren't coming in. I haven't given up the job search either though, until one night I do get a call. The next day, I'm on site at a location and the manager there says for me to be back the next day at the same time. I tell him that I'm not allowed to follow that order. He'll have to speak to my boss and she'll determine who gets sent out. He says he understands and that he'll speak to her. I get off work and arrive home right around 7:45 PM. I check my voicemail and there's been no messages left. I check to see if the boss has called yet and she hasn't. 8 PM comes and goes and I go into bed with a clear conscience. At 7:30 the following morning, my phone rings. It's the boss calling. "Where are you? Why aren't you at the site? Didn't the site manager speak to you?" At which point I respond with, "Yes, he did, but I told him to ask you. Remember what you said? To never take orders from anyone but you. That you would call the night before by 8 PM to let me know if I worked the next day. I didn't get any phone calls last night. I did exactly what you asked." The boss didn't like that. She hung up the phone on me. I never bothered to try calling her back. The next day, I turned in my logbook and quit the company before she could fire me. A few days later, I got hired at another job. Though the pay wasn't as good, the fact that there were steady hours meant I was making a lot better money. I don't know if I'm right on this, but if you get fired, can't you claim like free unemployment money for like 2 weeks or something? So surely he should have let her fire him, and then he'd been able to get some extra money. There's always extra work to be done? Fine, I'll do it. So I work in medical manufacturing / sterilization of lab tools, and the job is generally really good. My co-workers are great, my manager and director both actually care about us, and oftentimes take our suggestions on making the workplace better and implement them. It's just an all-around good job. My supervisor is also nice, but as a woman who is in her mid-40s, and me being a 20-year-old with a phone, I like to browse Reddit and Facebook when there is nothing to do in our smaller 2-person department or sterilization. She does not like it. So about 2 weeks ago, she comes into our small lab to me on my phone, and we have a discussion about it. Both autoclaves and dishwashers are running, and since one of the labs hasn't brought in their gear for that day, there's literally nothing to do for about 10 minutes, and I'm all caught up on my SOPs. The conversation goes something like this. "I see you're on your phone. Are you on the clock?" "Yeah, but there's nothing to do at the moment because Genotox hasn't brought in their stuff yet." "Well, there is always something to be done. Why don't you head down to the warehouse and start marking some boxes?" Gotcha. To work in the sterilization lab, you have to gown up in the appropriate lab equipment, lab coat, gloves, face mask, bouffant, safety glasses, boot covers, and etc. So putting it all on and taking it all off is a pain when entering and leaving the lab. We also oftentimes have small 5 to 10 minute windows where there's just nothing to do. Me and my co-worker in the small lab often take our breaks and lunches during these times, but they just occur too often to be covered by our 30-minute lunch and 15-minute breaks throughout the course of our 8.5-hour day. So, I head down towards the warehouse and start individually marking every single box. We need to mark the boxes that manufacturing puts the product in to show that they went through us and not some other facility. And I quickly get a text from my lab mate who gets back from her break and needs me back. However, the little convo I had with my supervisor is still stuck in my head when I go back to sterilization. Cue malicious compliance. If there's always work to be done, then I'll just do it all. Being a 20-year-old who doesn't go to school and gets paid plenty in a medical lab, 17 an hour plus full benefits plus bonuses, I have a lot of time on my hands, and not a lot of responsibilities. I talk to my manager and tell him I'm going to stay late on Friday to get ahead of the workload on Monday. Sterilization goes home on the weekends, but the labs still run their tests, so on Monday, we come back to a ton of dirty lab stuff. He okays it, and I spend the next 4 hours, until 8 PM when I usually leave at 4 PM, marking every single box in the warehouse, and every single label in the manufacturing lab. There's always work to be done. On Monday, a few days ago, my supervisor saw me on my phone again, and told me that I should be working, not being paid to sit around after all. I then ask her what else I could be doing, and she tells me that I could be marking boxes and stickering labels. I tell her that they're all done. She's kind of bewildered, and we walk down to the warehouse, where we see all of the crates of boxes with markings showing that they're all ready for use. She looks at the boxes and looks at me standing there grinning. Well, I guess you can be on your phone if there's nothing to do. Now I can enjoy my small Reddit and Facebook breaks. We receive new boxes and labels at the beginning of every month, so come September, I'm probably going to stay late again for some reason. Again, I was expecting a different outcome. When they said, oh, we've got all this equipment on, I was expecting, oh, it's gonna take like 10 minutes to get that off, do like one box, and then have to go back and put it all on again, and just miss a load of time, but I guess doing all the work works. Hey everyone, I hope you all had a really good day and that you enjoyed that video. If you want to check out some other videos, then click on screen right now, or check out the playlist down below. If you enjoyed that video, then please do leave a like, and if you want to submit your own stories, then you can do so by joining the Discord in the top link in the description. But thank you so much for watching, and I will see you very soon.